1994, Viacom buys out Paramount Pictures for $10 billion. This leads the way for, so far, over 30 theatrical films from Nickelodeon. This is a fraction of every single Nickelodeon theatrical film reviewed. It's Juice and Jam time.
10 long years is quite a price to pay.
Hey, Deep. We're going to France.
No, Stu, I'm too tired to dance.
France?
We're heading out, babies, there we go. Get those stuffy legs moving, no time to pick your nose. We got stuff to do, let's take Spike Joe.
Now here's a sequel that improves on the first, 2001's Rugrats in Paris. It's lighter in tone, uses CG better, colors aren't so dank, and has quite a few sequences that are animated a little too well.
Hey, baby!
This is my first time watching, so I got no nostalgia bias here. As a 9-year-old kid during its theatrical run, I had already lost interest in the show. I did rent the N64 game though, it was pretty bad, while the movie is the opposite. Rugrats in Paris about the babies going to a theme park that happens to be in Paris. You see more from the fictional Euro Reptar land and its Japanese culture theme than you do from Paris in this movie. Why even have this take place in Paris?
Jeez, Stu. Seems kind of odd to have a Japanese theme park in the middle of Paris.
That's a new century. Just go with le flow.
While the first movie's focus was on the main baby, this one's about his best friend, Chucky, who feels left out for not having a mom and wants to find a new one. It's a film that really hits you with the emotions. If you want to hurt yourself, be my guest. Watch this right after the Mother's Day episode of the Rugrats. Purely on tears shed, this film gets a pass. In keeping up with the first movie's tradition, Rugrats in Paris gives us two new main characters for the series, Chucky's stepsister Kimmy, with her mom included. Don't worry about spoilers, it's a very predictable film and to the point. This movie focuses on Chucky and only Chucky, as Kimmy doesn't do much of anything. She's spunky, but we hardly see her and Chucky interact. You'd think there'd be a scene where they'd bond over each of them missing a parent, but that opportunity is squandered. The frickin' dog gets more screen time than Kimmy. Yes, they bring Spike the dog with them to Europe, who doesn't serve the plot. It's just a side story of him chasing tail around Paris set to the one song you put in any 2000s movie with a dog. Oh, it's so dated. Paris has shown off more from the dog's perspective than from the baby's. Why are we in Paris again, and why is there a Chinese musical dream sequence in a Japanese theme park within Paris? Remember this? The Chucky Chan song with vocals by Isaac Hayes. Even as a 9-year-old, I thought this was so lame.
Here comes Chucky Chan.
Here comes Chucky Chan.
Martial arts expert of Reptar Land.
I will say though, they really pushed the designs for this park, and the main villain, Coco, a woman who wants to marry Chucky's dad for ulterior motives, has tons of odd fashion sense. I remember Nickelodeon hyping her up with commercials asking, "Will Chucky's dad marry this bitch? Find out in theaters," and I was stupid enough to think he did. Again, I didn't see the movie back then, so I was confused when the new TV season came around. That's when Kimmy and her mom were added to the series. I was like, who the hell are these two? Where's that other lady?
Welcome to Nickelodeon Animation Studios. Can I help you?
Hey, Nickelodeon, does anyone here know what Chucky's new mommy's gonna look like?
Hold on. We'll send someone right out.
Here comes.
Hey, can I help you?
Nick Cannon has contributed nothing to society. Besides Walden out. I like the movie, but it gets held down by being that loud, dumbed down later season of the Rugrats with all the gross out humor. And for no reason, they force in a giant robot battle near the end. Really, they stole a fully functional Jaeger from a theme park and fought against a park employee trying to murder these babies with his own mech. The parents have no idea this happened, nor is it brought up again. All this damage swept under the rug. I think if we saw a giant robot Mickey Mouse ravaging Orlando, ain't nobody gonna let that go. And if you want to talk casualties, if we go back to the airport travel montage, the babies stumble into a TSA X-ray, meaning Phil and Lil probably got a few months to live. And no, All Grown Up is not canon. They establish that's just a big fantasy sequence. Rugrats in Paris is a very cut and dry movie that only gives Chucky any material to work off of, and surprisingly a bit of Angelica too, who repents for her sins. While I wish for more substance, what drama is there really hits me hard at 3 AM. It's flawed, but Rugrats in Paris is still pretty good, and so far the best Nickelodeon film I reviewed here.
Welcome to Euro Reptar.
Yay! Reptar!
already made a full review of 2001's Jimmy Neutron years ago, ignore the title of that video, so I'll keep this brief. Jimmy is a boy genius inventor, but doesn't get the respect from both his parents and classmates. On one night, aliens abduct every adult on Earth, leaving the kids to party all day. Yet again, it's the kids rule message Nickelodeon was promoting heavily at the time, but this movie goes against that with the kids learning to appreciate their parents. Once half the town burns to rubble after a kid fails to use the stove, it's time for them to save their parents from the aliens, although it ends on the biggest, why didn't Jimmy just do that to begin with to defeat the aliens?
Got a blast!
Jimmy Neutron came out the same year as Monsters, Inc. and Shrek. True, it's not as funny or pretty as those films, but it's still got some genuine heart put into it. Every character is memorable, and I feel that cheaper CGI gives it an unsettling quirk to it. It's worthy of its meme status, and at least one viewing.
We were gonna see who could eat the most cotton candy. And I won. I want my mommy.
We were gonna go swimming.
Swimming? You want swimming? I'll give you swimming.
No way.
Hanging out behind the club on the weekend, acting stupid, getting drunk with my best friends.
When you're making a sci-fi movie, you don't have to make it realistic. You just gotta make it consistent. You set up the rules and follow them. ClockStoppers from 2002 breaks any rules established and rewrites them as they go along. It should be a simple premise. A teenager finds a special watch. He clicks the watch and enters hyper time, allowing the user and anyone they're touching while activating the watch to explore the world in slow-mo. Sounds like an easy concept to follow, but nothing in this movie makes sense. Like a car chase during hypertime. Maybe they can bring a whole car into hypertime, sure. But then we get into the DJ battle scene where our hero Zach must help out his best friend Meeker, who's trying to DJ his heart out to the audience's outrage. Yes, they called this poor kid Meeker. To be fair, Skeeter was already taken. So Zach and his love interest pause time while they move Meeker's frozen body to make it seem like he's dancing, which that somehow translates to him dancing at normal speed.
First off, let's give him a little attitude. Okay, and get one arm while I grab the other and pull.
Do you see how this makes no sense? There is so much in this movie that breaks what was previously established, like super hyper time, where you can phase through objects, although they somehow don't fall through the floor and are able to pick and choose what they can and can't phase through, despite randomly discovering this power seconds ago. It is baffling at how completely random the rules are. This movie was directed by someone well-versed with sci-fi, but I more so blame the studio for likely adding these trendy, simplified moments in. And can we take a moment to appreciate the fashion here? We know what 80s and 90s style looks like, but 2000s fashion is kinda hard to pin down, which is what I would say until this club scene hits me with that era. Look at all the colorful, baggy clothes like they all came out of SSX Tricky. It's so terrible, I love it. Now, I have not properly introduced the characters. It's one of those Danny Phantom trios of the wacky black and/or fat friend, love interest, and the hero, Zach, a totally cool high schooler who makes money off eBay through his iMac.
You made all this just by selling junk on your computer.
Well, one man's junk's another man's down payment, Meeker.
Zach also enjoys shredding on his sweet Gibson, playing paintball, and can do some sweet BMX moves in the middle of the fucking road. Get off the streets! Zach and his best bro are ready to score, so they prey on the unaccompanied exchange student from Venezuela. Venezuela? I hardly know ya.
It's a foreign girl in a foreign land, man. She's all lonely and vulnerable. I read about this in Cosmo. I gotta go talk to her.
It's a foreign girl in a foreign land, man. She's so lonely and vulnerable.
Excuse me, I gotta go call the cops so they may shoot you in the fucking face. Fret not. Unlike Snow Day, this guy actually learns how not to be a weirdo and scores a date with a girl.
Okay. So I'll see you then.
Great.
Oh yeah! I got a date tonight. I hope she likes Capri Sun. Zach's got it all. He can respect the women's and impress them by pausing time. Imagine all the things you can do with that power. Pass through security, finish art projects on time, kill the Joestar bloodline, never be late to school or work. All that to impress the love interest on their very first date. To which after their date, Zach rides home while doing some sweet BMX moves. Step into a Slim Jim. ClockStoppers should have been called Time Capsule because I dare say this is the most early 2000s movie ever. The fashion, the music, you got Blink-182 and Smash Mouth. The film obviously released right when The Matrix and bullet time was first blowing people's minds. It's a shame the characters in ClockStoppers are so trendy and one-dimensional, so now the movie only functions as a tech demo for the similar but superior Quicksilver scenes in the X-Men movies.
Jefferson, my friend watches you at Heat.
With today's technology, ClockStoppers warrants a revival. It has some cool ideas executed in a way that seems as if nobody gave a shit. Someone's gotta salvage this idea. I know the Simpsons already did, but look up the Cyborg 009 episode Frozen Time, an eerily quiet episode of the main cyborg being trapped alone in hypertime. One moment focuses on him unable to help people about to be caught in an explosion because should he touch someone at this speed, the friction will kill them. It's the only episode I ever watched from Cyborg 009, and the isolation of it really stuck with me. It's certainly more fascinating than this bullshit.
I can't take this anymore.
It's time to stop, okay? No more.
It's more Arnold. Now.
It's time for a new world. Out with the old, in with the new.
What's wrong with old things? Some old things are great. Yeah, like Mrs. Vitello. Whippersnapper. Ow!
What a waste of time. Hey Arnold, the 2002 movie. It came during that influx of theatrical films based on TV cartoons the Rugrats movie caused. Many of them, including Arnold's film, were no more than straight-to-video movies shoved into theaters. I went into more detail about this in a video, but to keep it brief, the oversaturation of 2D crap like this at a time when CGI films were new and exciting was why I feel 2D animation died in theaters. Disney tarnished their reputation by following that trend and by releasing crap animated sequels to theaters. But anyway, what's the plot of the Arnold movie? Stop me if you heard this one before. An evil businessman wants to tear down the block and build a mall over it. But nobody messes with Arnold's hood, so they gotta save the neighborhood by finding a document proving it's a historical landmark. Also, they become spies. Yeah.
Hammer time.
Nothing here feels cinematic or worth watching besides a few funny scenes like Big Bob getting pissed.
I'll buy you breakfast, we can talk, they have a special—
What's there to say? It's mediocre compared to the top tier Arnold episodes. This movie does something major for the series and then backpedals on it. The only noteworthy achievement this movie gave us was that Crazy Taxi ripoff game online, Runaway Bus, which is currently lost media. Now, look at this boring poster. It's just Arnold standing there while ripping off the Jimmy Neutron poster. Look at his face. What does that face tell you? I'm Arnold. I've come to fuck your wife and call you a racial slur, Pan. I wouldn't be the first.
We'll have a concert. The music will be so loud that we'd end up on the news. What do we call it?
How about the Save the Neighborhood debutante ball?
Black power, baby. Block and Annie. Block till you drop. Oh, it's a block thing. I wouldn't know.
Normally, these TV movies add a bit of shading on the characters to up the quality, except here they add shading to the main characters while lesser ones have no shading. It's so jarring when they're mixed together in the same shot. What a half-assed effort. How about next time Arnold gets to be illustrated by the ghost of Leonardo da Vinci and everyone else is a Crayola doodle?
In 6 days, Hey Arnold the Movie hits the big screen, and Arnold's old friend Little Romeo is there to help.
You know Arnold and I go way back in the day.
At best, this was an average episode and not a film the fans needed. They originally wanted to make the Hey Arnold Jungle movie right after this, the long-awaited finale where Arnold finds his missing parents, but because the theatrical movie we got wasn't all that big of a hit, Nick never got around to making the Jungle movie until 15 years later. Maybe that's a good thing. All that anticipation for the Jungle movie just turned me into a crying emotional wreck once I finally watched it. That was pure fan service. And besides, it was better than Samurai Jack's finale.
So when Arnold called me to do the soundtrack for his new movie, I said, yeah, sure, Lil Ice. So now it's just like old times. Arnold and me together, it's a beautiful thing. It takes two.
And along the way, something amazing happened. He granted me the power to talk to animals. It's really cool, but totally secret.
Yet another Nicktoon put on the big screen, this time with effort. The Wild Thornberrys movie from 2002. This follows Eliza Thornberry, a girl who can talk to animals, but should Eliza tell another human of her power, she'll lose them. Our hideous ginger of a main character tags along with her equally disgusting family, traveling the world filming a nature documentary show. It's a fun premise that takes us to anywhere in the world. In this movie, we're taken to the African savannah. Due to her irresponsible actions, Eliza loses a cheetah cub to some poachers and must go on a journey to save her. If you ignore Eliza's one power, she's only a normal girl being thrashed around and dealing with people ready to kill. It gets kinda intense, really. And unlike the Rugrats movie, also produced by Klasky Chupo, the gross out jokes here are near non-existent, as there's a lot more snappy dialogue and callbacks. It's also cool for them to completely reanimate the show's intro with theatrical animation, although the new narration makes it sound like Eliza's talking down at children. I mean, she is, it's a kid's movie, but you know.
We travel all over the world. See, my dad hosts this nature show, and my mom shoots it. You see, my dad hosts his nature show, and my mom shoots it. Okay, so we're not that average.
The movie has thrills, but there's this detour with Eliza's grandma. She feels Eliza's too reckless, so they ship her off to school in Britain, which doesn't add much consequence in the grand scheme of things, as Eliza quickly breaks out. What I think the movie needed was another internal conflict. Eliza got to enjoy her short time in school, so maybe have her choose between living a comfy life in school with her new friends, or living out in nature making new animal friends daily, but always having to leave them behind. Must get pretty lonely out there. The Wild Thornberrys movie is a fun adventure, but it leaves me wanting more. With a 90-minute runtime, it kinda ends on a real, oh, we're done already? But I guess they were saving time for a pointless dance sequence ending.
When the jam come on, till the morning, screaming out, haze and hoes. I don't think they understand. Get up, let's dance, come on.
And yeah, I get it, the Klasky Chupo art style is polarizing, but boy does this movie look amazing, both in colors and scope. It's only on screen for a few seconds, but the fashion during the travel montage through London is my favorite. I'm not expecting Disney quality animation when a TV show becomes a movie, but the Wild Thornberrys is such an upgrade from the show. This, to me at least, should be the standard for TV adaptations.
And that was just the beginning of my biggest adventure ever.
It doesn't take much to make me happy. A tricked out ride, a best friend, a bicky, a super high-tech watch that can freeze space and time with the push of a button. Whoa, the simple things. And I just met this beautiful girl who totally likes me.
What is wrong with you?
She'll come around. So why is it that just when everything starts to click, I have to stop an evil corporation from getting the watch back and taking over the world? So much for simple.
ClockStoppers, rated PG, in theaters March 29th.